So after a brief hiatus, I've come back with a difficult second album of the Your Law Firm Success podcast. And surprisingly enough, we're giving it a strong focus on AI, but not in the way that we see at conferences and events and talks and sales materials. It's really about how you can begin to separate the wheat from the chaff as a law firm owner or a law firm leader or as a law firm partner, looking at how you can begin to deploy AI within your practice. For many, it's become almost like stage fright, where you're confronted with so much that it's difficult to make a decision. So in my first episode of this new season, I brought in Alex Hutchinson. I really like Alex Hutchinson as a typical man or person from Northern England. He's straightforward, easy to deal with, and pragmatic. And his job is largely helping law firms look at the best ways in which they can deploy IT to their benefit, to increase efficiency, maximize productivity, and reduce roadblocks or obstacles. I've got my dog with me in again today for this. She was there for the first one of the last series. In this episode, what we do is we speak to Alex and we ask him, where do you start? Where do you begin and how do you get started? How do you begin taking your firm down this journey that we now know we're all on? Thank you very much, Alex, for coming in. You're the first guest of season 2. How does that feel?
I'm honoured. Honoured to be here for season 2, yeah.
The reason that I wanted to speak to you is because, and after a sort of hiatus in this, there's one subject that's on everybody's mind, and that's, how we're going to live on Mars, or more likely in the legal sector, the use of AI. And for one, I, despite being a big user of AI in our workplace and a fan of what it can bring from an efficiency and skills point of view, have been absolutely overwhelmed by its use in conferences, events, the delegate lists, and also what do you call them, the exhibition areas where vendors and sponsors are. It's a complete overwhelm. And what I wanted to do was to bring in an expert who works with law firms around the country, helping them to understand how they can deploy technology to their benefit, with a view to offering some guidance as to how law firms can begin. Law firms of all shapes and sizes who don't have the type of resource that the bigger firms might have, can begin to understand how and where they can implement AI into their practice. That was meant to be an introduction. It was a bit of a large monologue. So maybe you could just tell us initially just a brief introduction into you and your business.
Yeah, sure. So I operate as a fractional CTO, basically, or independent IT leadership for boutique law firms. So we're typically dealing with firms that are over 500,000 revenue, under 250 headcount. They don't need a full-time IT director, fractional CTO, or anything on the payroll, but tech's getting in the way. Tech can mean IT, systems, software, suppliers, security. They've had enough. Something's preventing them from doing what they need to do or be where they need to be, and they want to bring in some help on a temporary basis. That's basically what we do. I provide that leadership, and then there's certain types of projects that typically would be.
How do these problems initially manifest themselves for our firms? Like if you were to outline maybe the top 3 or 4 issues that firms maybe come to?
So some are kind of legacy issues where you've started a firm, you were small, you've acquired bits of technology and software and systems, and that works to a degree, but then eventually, as you grow in headcount, they start creaking. And it's not just law firms, like any business owner would do. You don't want to go out your way to make these changes because it's not easy to do. They know that. They don't know what new technology to pick. They don't really want to get involved in doing it. So they keep going as long as they can. And eventually something happens. Something happens where it becomes disruptive. Either a lot of the things that spring to mind when I talk about legacy is you'll have a piece of software that sits on a server, but everything now is built in the cloud. So these two things don't talk and it's getting stretched all the time. So it starts to actually disrupt the firm. And that's when they need to make a change. Or case management providers said, you're no longer on that model. You're now software as a service. It's $45 a month. You need to move to this one. You're not doing it. Oh, it's £90 a month. There's the environment forces it, whether it's the internal environment or the external environment.
Right, okay.
Or there's just a trust thing. We've got downtime and disruption. We can't log in, or this is going down all the time. We've told the IT provider to fix it. They've told us they've done it 5 times, and every time it keeps coming back. I've had enough. And that's when they need somebody independent to just come in and understand it and take care of it.
And how do they normally find you? Are you introduced, or is this online or LinkedIn? Because you're quite active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I am active on LinkedIn. I think what I've realised now is that I like doing it. I do like doing it. You need to be careful you don't do too much of it. But for me, it's useful for people in my network to see. There are law firms that, funnily enough, they'll mention it to you, although they won't like or comment, but it comes up in conversation saying, I saw that post. And then another partner saying, I saw that as well. I said, well, neither of you liked or commented on it, but they don't want to. They just enjoy viewing it. So to answer the question, all of our work comes through introductions and recommendations. So I literally have a network of people that I know that specialise in helping law firms. That's only who I talk to, that's who I spend my time with. And you curate that yourself for the people that you like and you trust and that you think can actually... You ask them about what they do for firms, and do you believe that would be good advice to someone, and would you introduce them? They're the ones I keep in touch with, and it's those relationships that introduce work. Because a managing partner will be sat there, they'll talk about a problem that is in the sphere of IT, and every time that an intro comes up, someone will say, "You need to speak to Alex," and that's how it starts. And
so tell me then, because I imagine it would have been broadly similar to us, MLT Digital, in that our work has been broadly similar in terms of the tools and the techniques that we deployed to help law firms generate business online between 2009 and 2022.
Yeah.
Then OpenAI released ChatGPT. AI started to enter more sort of common usage, despite it at that time still being fairly niche and quite rudimentary. As it has evolved over the course of the past 2 to 3 years, the entire language and ecosystem has shifted.
Yeah.
Has that been reflected in the type of questions that you are now asked by either your law firm customers or your prospective law firm customers?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not always the top of the listing that they should be doing, if that makes sense. They might have other infrastructure or legacy problems that need to be fixed, but it brings a pressure. It brings a pressure into their conversation, their world. It could be a pressure from... I was at an event with another managing partner who was waxing lyrical about what they're doing. How accurate that is doesn't need to be known, but it puts pressure on, what are we doing? What can I say? What your clients have the same thing. Their expectations have shifted. So the clients of law firms expect something more. They want to know, how is your firm considering, leveraging, using AI, but safely, and so that it's quality controlled. It doesn't bring risk to me, but I want you to use it to potentially reduce my fees, or especially where it's laborious work. I don't want to pay $200 an hour for 16 people to read, boxes and boxes of discovery. There's obvious areas where a client expectation changes. There's the referral network and relationship pressure. So when you're talking to your introducers, because law firms, a lot of their work comes through word of mouth as well as the brand and reputational marketing. What conversation are you having with your network, your introducers, your referrers, and also your people? Your people want to know. And if you don't control it from a people perspective, there was a big firm, Hill Dickinson, were noted. They had to block ChatGPT because people were just using it. Yeah. So as a leader of a law firm, how are you actually going to direct your people, and what's your narrative, and how do you guide them on it? I don't think doing nothing is an option, and it's not because, irrespective of what the AI vendors want you to do, forget that for a minute, park that. But as the leader of a law firm, unfortunately, I don't think you can just sit back. And it's the same for us, by the way. It's the same for you. Same for everybody.
And so we work with a lot of law firms of a particular size. In many cases, you will have different partners responsible for different things.
Yeah.
I'm the IT partner of one of those firms.
Yeah.
I've got a number of competing interests for my time, including a combined pressure of billing.
Yes.
Combined with actually running the IT function.
I don't want to be you.
Would that be a common type of person that you would
We've
deal
helped
with?
people, because again, that pressure, that what was the phrase I used before, where they've had enough of a scenario, is that it's untenable. You can't effectively do those, because what you end up with as the partner leading IT is all these people around you letting you down, but it's normally it's a tale of two halves. It's because you can't lead and direct and spot the gaps, and you can't run it. You can be involved in it, but it's hard to do.
This season of the Your Law Firm Success podcast is brought to you by MLT Digital and Recept.io. MLT Digital is the market leader in the UK legal sector at deploying AI to assist law firms in their online business generation efforts. Increasingly, online business generation for law firms is a battle waged on many fronts, and there is no one better than MLT Digital in this industry at maximising the value of all channels for law firms to generate business. This is now supported by Recept.io. Recept.io is an AI-enabled lead qualification platform that turns those leads that MLT has generated for you into converted calendar booked appointments. If you'd like to find out more about any of these businesses, please visit mltdigital.co.uk or recept.io.ai. So imagine again, I'm in that scenario, I'm that person.
Yeah.
I feel as if my tech is largely in order.
Yeah.
I've already worked with you or somebody like you. We have our case management system up and running. We have our voice over IP.
Yeah.
We have our telephone systems. We are not in a situation where we are firefighting around tech.
Yeah.
But as you say, I'm being asked by clients and staff, and I've got an eye on competition who are making noises about their use of IT, and I'm like a rabbit in the headlights. So where do I start?
So we'll work with firms and ask them to start with their narrative on that. You need a stance so that you can communicate to all those people that we've said. And that might be, it could be one paragraph, it could be one piece. Sometimes you might split it into clients want something slightly different compared to what people want to hear internally, for example. You might have an internal and external narrative. But in simple terms, it's about the pressure. It's about a building pressure pot that's coming all the time and the steam's building up inside it. The narrative allows you to take that lid off and let some steam out and get thought and control of what's going on. So the best place to start is to have that narrative, and that can rarely be done in isolation by that lead partner. It needs to be done with the other partners. But it's about how do you run kind of a workshop support. It was not a term that an IT partner would use when running a session with other partners. But they need to get together as a collective to say, who do we need to be able to communicate with about AI and emerging technology? So it's our clients, our introducers, referrers, our people, and the leadership team. As a leadership team, we need to know what we're doing, and we need to all agree on how we're going to progress with it. And ultimately, you need to have a narrative that gives you the confidence to be able to communicate on it. So what are the key components that need to be part of that? So who are we as a firm? Do we want to be, are we a high volume practice that needs technology to be able to protect margins and deliver things in a time scale? Because if you are, your narrative will be different to if you are. We are not that. We are a boutique litigation firm that is focused on specialist advice at the highest level. We are calm, collected and controlled, and we're a high margin, low volume business. Do you see what I mean? So there are different scenarios where tech plays a different part, and it's normally to do with the volume and the nature of the practice. So it's easier if you're a specialist firm because you're either dealing with residential property and you can have a stance, or you're dealing with corporate and commercial litigation, you can have a stance. That's a bit easier in my mind. When you've got a general practice, you might need to have an overarching global narrative, but then you need some nuance for within it. So it's harder the more complex the business is. But to where to start is to pull that narrative together. So if we use an example of a specialist firm, which is the same for a practice area in law firm, it's about understanding who do we need to communicate with, what's important to us in terms of AI and emerging tech, who do we want to be? We want to make sure that quality is part of it. We want to make sure it's controlled. We want to make sure it's human-led. We want to make sure that we are running things in the right order so tech isn't running us. There's certain things that will need to be part of that for them to stand behind it. And what do the client and the industry expect from us as well? And how do we merge those two just in a really simple way to say, so when somebody asks you what you're doing with AI and emerging tech, you can say, this is what we're doing. This is what we think about it. This is why we're not rushing in. This is how we're taking care of compliance. This is how we're controlling how we are using it, not how it's using us. And this is how we're going to better serve you with it. So you almost need to split it into a grid and then come up with your narrative.
Can you ask ChatGPT for that?
Well, you could do, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But what the output it will give you depends on all these different things.
What you're going to put into it.
Yeah.
And do you find... Is this something that you're dealing with a lot?
It's the start point for a lot of time. So with law firms, we're not doing, bear in mind, we are not a high volume, low margin practice. We deal with boutique firms and there's a limit to the ones we deal with. So, we're quite clear with trying to help firms. The start points for us is, do you need a narrative or have you already got a communication level that you're comfortable with, that you're already using? If you've got that, then it's about starting with use cases and looking internally. Forget all this noise. I saw a graphic the other day. There's over 750.
I think I saw that as well.
Yeah, legal tech products, half of which are not going to be around, are they? In a couple of years. So you can't look at that noise. You need to take control and ownership of that problem. But it's where do you start and how do you do it? And I think it's narrative. If you need to communicate, takes the pressure off, and then it enables you to communicate internally and externally. And then it's about where are we going to start using this? Where's the use case?
So I'm assuming that narrative, as essentially a bit like a mission statement, an overarching statement for the firm, which is then broken down if needs be. Obviously, if you have one firm doing one strain of work, this isn't required. But if you're doing like a general practice firm, a similar sort of sub-statement for each of those areas, because that will also bring into play the fact that, and we've discussed this before in this, that in many environments, I don't know whether this has changed, but certainly in the legal environment, it used to be that the cleverest partner was in the room was the one who could spot the 1% wrong with an otherwise brilliant idea. And so
you build the most.
And so you will get partners who will just be like, this is not for me.
Yeah. But that's why, when you've got this, if you call it a global narrative or a firm narrative, if you've got 10 partners that are heading up practice areas for a large regional practice, half's kind of corporate and half's private client, you might have 8 of those that just, it doesn't matter. I don't have that pressure. I want something to communicate. I don't need to add into it. We're happy to adopt that. But you might have somebody that's really passionate about the residential property department. The narrative's been crafted by the head of corporate and commercial. They run very different worlds and they want to be able to put a bit of their own stamp on it. So it's just not blocking that in my mind. You need to do that as you would run a partnership. That's obviously not my decision, but I would allow these people to, as other individuals where they want to have a bit of an input but not bog down the whole thing. They might just want to be able to have a little twist on it or be able to say, well, for us, that's not quite right, or we want to be able to include this. Well, how would you want to include that? Well, that's fine. And then just have their own slight amendment, or addition to it. They might want to block that. Some firms don't like it. They want to have things locked down, but it's not about controlling people. It's like you say, a mission statement. So if you're not going to do that, you need something that you can all in principle get behind. And more importantly, you can all communicate to those people. So could you, if a client asks you, what are you going to say? When one of your people asks you, what are you going to say? Are you able to do that? Are you confident doing it? And do you need any training and support to help you do that? And once you're able to, that's it. It doesn't really, it's half about the stance. There's certain things that need to be there, but it's about being confident enough to go, we know what we're doing. We're here to look after you and this is how we're doing it.
And so once you have that stance, I imagine you get into a situation where you're then saying, like, we have our stance, internal, external, compliance, risk. I imagine that's the starting point for then beginning on the back of that to begin considering which areas are most appropriate for the consideration and potential deployment of AI within them.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and sometimes it might come the other way. You might have a partner that is chomping at the bit because they're either under pressure or they can see the opportunity. Everyone's different, aren't they, in terms of how they're going to engage with it and approach with it and how tech aware, tech savvy, tech interested they are. So sometimes that pressure, sometimes that opportunity comes from within where there's one person going, I'd love to be able to explore use cases within my department. And there's others that are just so busy with the workload that they don't have the capacity or the interest to do it. And they will let one leading partner start a journey so that we can all benefit via osmosis for the other things that will naturally just spread out. Because there are certain things that spread out and certain things that are absolutely only specific to a case, not even a practice area, to a case type.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like...
And you've mentioned twice the phrase use case.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit?
Sorry about that.
Could you explain a bit more about that?
So the reason, just firstly, the reason I mention it a lot is because with technology, there's so many vendors that are trying to tell you AI is available, we've got it, this is how you use it in some cases, and it can just be adopted. And it's, in my opinion, bearing in mind I'm engaged in this for a living with change and understanding fee earners and practice areas to how to work with them to adopt or engage with a change and then adopt it and use it. Use cases is really important. So to define what it is, to me at a basic level is, irrespective of the tool, because there's 750 tools out there. So if we're going to select one, we need to understand how and where we are going to use AI within our practice area and case type so that we can then select something. So I look at it from a pure selection basis. If you don't know your requirements, you cannot select anything successfully. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. So we use the same methodology that we've always used for selecting a new case management system. It's the same. What are the key components that you need to use this technology for? And what are the requirements specifically of how you want to use it? Because don't worry about whether it's possible. I put £100 in an envelope now and you can have it if it is. It will, you know what I mean? It will be available. Yeah. It will be. And if it's not available, you can build it faster at a third of the price. That's not the issue. And the challenge is people are so busy. It's this overwhelm again. Everywhere you turn on any computer, go to any event, any article, it's AI, AI, AI. And you cannot move forward with another demo. You can't move forward with another product coming to the market. You need to move forward by understanding how you're going to use the software. So I jump on that because it's a generic phrase that everyone can stop and think, well, actually, yeah, we don't know our use cases. Even if they don't really know where to start with it or what a use case is, and they know roughly, we don't know how we're going to use this. So
I'm standing there, fixed, staring, mouth agape at all these events, thinking about AI. First stance, first approach, or stage one is define your stance and get some help defining your stance for your internal stakeholders, your clients, regulatory bodies, taking into account risk and compliance.
Yeah, absolutely, always, yeah.
Yep. Once that is defined, what one has to do is take a step back and think of the areas in your practice in which you believe AI could help in terms of efficiency, reducing laborious, time-consuming, costly activities in a way that is compliant with the stance that you've taken. And then again, using you or somebody like you, work on identifying which tools out there are likely to be able to support you in achieving your objectives.
Yeah, but once you've done the use case side, so we'll try and drill it down specifically. So say you have a practice area. practice areas can have many case types. So if you, again, I keep saying residential because it's just easier for me to kind of explain it. But you can be buying a property, selling a property, remortgaging a property, changing a title on a property. They're different things. They might have components that are the same, but they're actually different case processes. So what you need to do is, again, you don't go wide, you go really narrow. You've got the stance. You know how you're going to communicate. You see if there's a partner that wants to lead the charge on doing some investigation, because you need to start working towards that stance. And it's absolutely, in my mind, it's an evolution. There's no big bang here without disruption and risk. You need to evolve this, and it's layered. So it's about then saying, right, we've got a partner that's engaged, that wants to go through this and put some time and resource into trying to lift these use cases out of what we do. From there, the next best thing to do is look at case types, be specific on. So we did some work for a firm recently where they had 3 different practice areas, but there's like 12 or 15 case types in there. So we need to pick 4 case types maximum. And I'm talking about the individual case scenario, like buying a house, selling a house, remortgage. So then when we did that, we can then go through and understand at a high level, let's document, and by document I could mean open a Word document, type 1 and put the first step and do all your steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps that we have, the high level that we go through when there's a case. Then you go to step 1 and you indent it in A, and you just put another layer of detail, peel the onion, and talk about what is the extra information we do within that. So we'll effectively draw them out a workflow diagram that says, this is where the case comes in. This is what happens from a marketing and BD perspective, because as you know, and as you're working with, there's AI opportunities in there. When is it then converted to a case? Who engages with it? What role against each of these? Is it secretary, onboarding team, admin? When's it hit the fee earner? What system does it change from? Is it in HubSpot for marketing? Then it goes directly into the case management system. You know, you just follow it all through. And then when you've got that by a case type, you can start to then go through it and discuss where are the problems, where is the inefficiency, where is the labour, where is the repetition, and think about your boxes again. Externally, where is the perception, the expectations changed? Where is the pressure on? We're getting pushed up against fees when we've got to do the discovery piece because they don't want to pay, open book at £200 an hour anymore. They're looking for a fixed fee at 5k to do that. So that's an opportunity. Do you see what I mean? So this is where you start to lift your use cases, but you do it with your knowledge internally, not based on what someone's trying to sell you. You've got to, and then it's from there you can then get into specifics. You break that down and go, what tends to happen is there'll be certain areas that are low-hanging fruit that might even be able to be grouped into Copilot's a really good safe zone for people to start out with because it inherits a lot of the compliance and data privacy policy that you need, and you can use it off the back of meetings. It's a really good way for firms to just engage. So if there's pressure from your people, Copilot's a great way to give them something that you can do at scale, control it, and then start to tailor things by practice area. But that's how you lift your use cases. We're not talking about anything tech there. We're talking about what we know as a firm. We need to get that down. We need to get it in a diagram. We need to discuss the problems, where the opportunities are based on where is the pressure coming from. So where did the client's expectations change? And also what do our people now want? I don't want to be doing that bit because I know that tech can fix that because I'm a young fee earner. Right, well, we need to agree and understand how we're actually going to do that in a manner that, as the partner, by the way, I'm happy with, that the regulatory bodies will be happy with. Oh, sorry, Stephen, that you'll be happy with. And then, do you see what I mean? And control it from that way. I think one of the ways that we try and talk to clients about it is when you're using a case management system, this traditional tech, you're using it, you go in, you click a button, it time records, it does what you need and what you tell it to do effectively. AI is different. AI is, how are we working? How do we need to work as a human? How do we need to control this case? And how can it piggyback us to help us do it faster, but our way? Do you see what I mean? You've got it's how one is using technology, case management system. AI needs to support you in your journey. It's called Copilot for a reason. It's not flying the plane. The human's flying the plane. Human is the pilot.
Brilliant. And finally, what, in briefly, is your view on where AI is going in the legal sector?
I think there's different pressures in the sector. So I think if you are, for example, if you're a big corporate firm, top tier firm, you've got pressure from in-house counsel that don't want to be paying you £4 million bill anymore. So that is really active. There's a lot of pressure. In-house counsel have got budgets to go and find tech to reduce those bills. That is a lot of pressure. The big clients have got the same thing. If they're spending millions of pounds a year on retainers and counsel, they want those brought down. It all filters down in the same way. But in terms of where it will go, I think ultimately a law firm still needs to be able to process that case, don't they? They need to be able to deliver that case in that manner that they're happy with. Tech will help speed things up. Some people will get there faster than others. I think where you're in a really specialist practice area, or even you're doing specific case types, you will see competitors coming out that'll be new start firms that are just doing it with tech straight off the bat. But it'll be where the low-hanging fruit is that those partners will know that there's certain case types where it is just 15 steps every time. And that they are majorly under threat. They are under threat. And what are you going to do about those? That's a leadership discussion because that is coming. I don't see any way it can change. But where it needs more of the human input, and if it's litigation, for example, there'll be certain areas where you want that firm to be using AI safely to help them. But there's just a lot of pressure at the minute. And once the lid's gone off and you've got a few things to talk about, saying, well, your key pay point is discovery. Yeah. We've got a package for discovery where we do use tech. It's our tool. It's tailored. It's got all these things that are part of it. You could start to win business. The pressure's off, so you're not losing business. And then you carry on. But it's a big pressure pot at the minute. I don't think it needs to all be fixed now. I think you need that narrative. You need to protect your ground. And you need to look at realistically, where are the case types that if they are not automated, someone else is going to do it. And even, do you still want to do it if it is? Do you want to do that?
All right. Well, brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much for your time. As I say, that probably signifies a good end.
Yeah.
She said that's enough.
She's like, we stop this guy talking now.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome, Stephen.
So thank you very much to Alex. You can find him on LinkedIn at Alex Hutchinson. And I'm sure you can get his email address, and we'll include any more details in the comments.